Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 3, final 2 episodes. Let's see what happens.
Shared so much of who you are, and I am so thankful for that. I think I have a really good idea about the type of woman that's gonna love you the way that Cole needs to be loved every day for the rest of your life. And I think you and I both know that that is not me.
Okay, I don't think anyone would be surprised. I'd be surprised if anyone was surprised. They said a lot of things that were at least verbatim indicating that they were still on the fence, but I don't think either one of them has really been on the fence for weeks. I think they were trying to make it work in the beginning at the honeymoon, but I think somewhere along the line, maybe a month ago, she said 2 months. I didn't realize it was that short. In my head, it would have been longer than that. But okay, so they met 2 months ago, or they had become engaged 2 months ago. But anyway, I would suspect that at least 4 weeks ago, both of them strongly suspected, if not like 100%, were sure that, yeah, this person is not for me. From my impression, I don't think either one of them was a yes and the other one was a no. I think they both were a no at a certain point. Maybe in the beginning, if he really were to commit, Cole would say he was a no pretty quickly. And for Zay, it took her a little longer. But yeah, I don't think that this is surprising. And, you know, as far as saying no, that was a nice thing to say. Although you could argue there's a passive aggression there. That's not how I heard it, but you could interpret it that way. He could interpret that way of her saying, I'm not that person for you. Normally when people say that, they're just like, look, we're just not vibing. We're not compatible. There's too many differences or something. But what she could be saying, or at least it could be interpreted, as like, you're looking for Colleen, or you're looking for someone that looks different than I do, or something like that. I don't think that's what she's saying, but it could be interpreted that way. But anyway, so, you know, she's saying no. I don't think he's surprised. They either knew that they were both going to say no, or they highly suspected. My whole hypothesis, and I have no idea, because when I float these ideas, I don't get a lot of people agreeing with me. But when he was calling her bipolar, which is just a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, there's just so many things that are wrong with, I already went over that. One, no, she doesn't exhibit, I mean, he knows her better than I would, of course, but in terms of the show, she's exhibited nothing to indicate bipolar. Also, the way he was saying it was extremely hostile in an arrogant way, which really triggered me. And even if she were suffering from bipolar, that doesn't somehow make her undateable or unmarriable or wrong in everything that she says. I feel like where he was coming from was along those lines, that he was saying that there's something deeply wrong with her, aka bipolar, which is ridiculous. But anyway, I think that that notion is in society, maybe particularly around young people, I don't know, online. And thus, everything that she's said about him is because she's literally insane. Yeah, I've already been over that. It was a ridiculous thing to say. It's highly stigmatizing. A lot of people have bipolar. A lot of people suffer from it. And you know, it's a mood disorder. I've been over it. And there's nothing in her presentation that indicates that. She could have it, but there's nothing in her presentation that indicates it. The only thing that I would say that could be indicated, or a potential hypothesis to explore with her, is preoccupied attachment. And that's not a diagnosis. It's just an attachment style. It's an attachment tendency, a way that we react to threats of loss and hurt and rejection. In that she seemed a little hypervigilant, and that, you know, that first day when they met each other, that next morning, she seemed a little hostile, or you know, not a little hostile, but kind of moderately hostile, and sure of her perspective that he was being a jerkface. He might have been. They might have edited it that way. Anyway, so she's saying no, and she's being nice, and maybe they'll just be like, hey, you know what? I could see the two of them breaking up amicably now and forever and having it be just fine, because I think that's within the two of them to do.
As much as I have wanted it to be me, and have tried to manipulate myself to be that person for you, the last 2 months have not been like picture perfect.
Okay, so I thought she was done, but she's going on. I tried to manipulate myself to be that person for you. That doesn't sound kind. It sounds hostile in a sense. Yeah, maybe it's accurate. It didn't seem that way in the beginning. I think as time went on, again, in the real world, I think Cole, upon being with her physically and seeing her physically, would have said, yeah, I just don't feel it. And he would have either broken up with her, or said he didn't want another date, or he would have given a vibe of not being fully into her and she would have walked away. But since the show forces people to stick with it, I think it made them see it through to this point. And so I think if this was a real situation, he would have told her right away that this wasn't working. I mean, he basically was saying that first day. He's like, yeah, I mean, really, the person for me is Colleen in terms of looks and in terms of conversation. Emotionally, you're the one. You know, if you heard that from someone as you were dating them, I think a lot of people would be like, well, then I'm not for you. So, like, you either want the whole package or you don't. So anyway, but now she's talking about manipulating myself. I don't know what that means. I think what I am hearing that she's trying to say is, you have unrealistic expectations about, or you're trying to shove me into a box, and so I tried to also shove myself into a box, but that didn't work. Is that what she's saying?
To be me, and have tried to manipulate myself to be that person for you. The last 2 months have not been like picture perfect. You have disrespected me.
Wow, this is a new one, right? I don't think we've seen this kind of thing. And this isn't the best place to do this. If she wants to tell him in person, by all means, say these things. But on the altar, there's a time and a place. And he's now having to just sit there and endure it and probably thinking, okay, what do I say? And now everyone has to sit there and watch it. So this puts him in a bind, because he could just say, okay, well, I guess this is you rejecting me. So, because normally, the I don'ts at the altar will say, I'm sorry, I don't. And then the dumped one is supposed to be acting like they're dumped. I don't think he feels dumped. I think he knew he didn't want to be with her.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual. Navigating all the various challenges we face can make you feel unsure or stuck in place. Whether it's a relationship, or going through grief, or considering a new career. And, generally speaking, a therapist can really help with that. By helping you to explore your feelings, and by giving you the space to clarify what you want to do. In my life, I can't imagine where I'd be without the therapy I've had. During some of the biggest moments of my life, therapists have been there for me. To slow me down, to listen to me, to help me explore. Well, that's where BetterHelp comes in. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Kirk. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
You have disrespected me. You have insulted me. You have critiqued me. And for what it is worth, you have single-handedly shattered my self-confidence. And I hate that you have had that kind of effect on me.
If I was to take a guess, and I don't know, there's no way for me to know, but I would say that is half distortion and half rational or reasonable. The reasonable half, I would say, he early on was comparing her to Colleen explicitly, very bluntly, repeatedly. Remember that, all those scenes where he just kept bringing Colleen up with her? And, they'd be talking and it'd be established that he's more attracted to Colleen, or Colleen is more his type than she is. And there's a lot of implications there about body shape and face or whatever. And then, they would have established that, and then they'd be talking, and then he'd say, yeah, I mean, Colleen, and I'm really, he just like, okay, you've already said that. You don't need to continually to bring it up. And they, at the time, were still in a phase where it was maybe going to work between the two, but I think they both maybe thought that would happen at the honeymoon. Anyway, so I think that would rationally do a number on your self-esteem. It'd really make you look in the mirror and say, if I were different, he'd love me, or there's something wrong with my body or my face or my skin color or something. I don't know. So that sucks that I'm just inherently unappealing to people and there's nothing I can do about it. So, that's going to do a number on your self-esteem. So I think that is reasonable. Now, is he to blame for that? I would say that he could have definitely been more diplomatic. I think he has a policy, or his personality or his youth or inexperience or naivete is such that he just doesn't know how to word things or how to approach things like that. I don't know. He seems kind of like a bull in a china shop, just someone that's like, hey, I'm just me and I'm just, hey, everything's, yeah. Which makes me wonder if his family kind of treated him that way, gave him a lot of leeway. I don't know. Anyway, so I think that half of it could be rational. Another part of it reasonable. But the other half of it, I think she is, especially as she's, I guessing, attempting to humiliate him in front of everyone and his family and her family, that she's saying the distorted perspective, she's seeing it through a lens that first day, I don't know if that's indicative of their relationship. I don't know if that's what she's referring to, but that first day when it looked like they had a great time in the pods, they had a great first night together, they were physical with each other, everything was going well. He wakes up in the morning, she's still sleeping, he kind of gives her some space. It's also morning time. Maybe he's just kind of wanting to chill for a little bit. It's been a lot of, just think of all the pods, the build up to the pods, seeing each other, honeymoon, travel. And then the next morning, you just like, I think I just want to veg out brain-wise for a little bit. I don't know. And so who knows? Maybe he was a jerk-faced. I suspect he wasn't. Anyway, so then he, kind of is tiptoeing around her, and then she interprets that through that distorted lens of disrespect and treating me like crap, gaslighting me. And then when I come at you with just questions, which we saw from the outside seemed very accusatory and hostile and off-putting, she's giving him the silent treatment while she's putting on makeup. Remember that whole scene while he's standing behind her just like, so what do I do here? I think she might be a little upset that I was quiet in the morning. I'm not sure what's happening right now. And then a number of things happened beyond that first day. I think she is returning to that. I don't know if she ever gave up that perspective. Maybe she said, yeah, he was a complete jerk face that entire few days. But I think maybe she either fought against that because there were indications that she was saying, look, I need someone to call me out on my crap sometimes. She was saying something like that and help me out with things like that. So maybe a part of her was seeing it from his point of view, but maybe she still had a part, or she's returning to that earlier or whatever. And she's speaking from that place of like, everything is your fault. You're a jerk face. You've been treating me like crap. You've been, I guess, abusing me or something, or out to get me or something.
Have not been like picture perfect. You have disrespected me, you have insulted me, you have critiqued me, and for what it is worth, you have single-handedly shattered my self-confidence.
And another part of this is she could have in the beginning, because we all want love and attachment. We all need relationships for the most part. There are some potential exceptions to that, but they need attachments. They want romance. They want long-term companionship. And you could argue that maybe in the beginning, because she was so desperate to hold on because of that preoccupied attachment place. But I don't know if she would agree that she has that style of reacting to threat of rejection and loss of relationships. But if she does, people with that style and the schemas thereof have typically low self-esteem. They typically think of themselves as not lovable, and they are frequently trying to garner love from other people. There are various different ways of dealing with that. You can become very angry about it. You can be very pleasing. You can be very avoidant. There's a lot of different ways of dealing with it. But the underlying premise is I have to be different, or I have to change myself, or I have to hide myself or something in order for people to truly love me. Because baseline and as a default, no one's going to really love me. It's just never really going to work out. And so I think in the beginning, she might have been really trying to change the way she sees things, and taking on the perspective that there is something not wrong with her, but that she's doing things that are overreactive, because he was really trying in his way. And on the scale of things, that first day, I think he was playfully trying to communicate that he's he wants her to see that he is into her, like that whole good versus great thing. I think he was being playful as a way of saying, you overreact. I actually am into you, but you interpret it in a super negative way. So I'm going to be playful with you because I don't want you to interpret it as if I don't love you or I'm not into you or that. Anyway, so she, in that first few days, could have been like, okay, I need to suppress who I am. I need to convince myself of his perspective so I don't push him away. Maybe that was what was happening, and maybe she entered a mode like that for weeks after, and she's been suppressing this throughout the entire time. I don't know.
And I hate that you have had that kind of effect on me. And the messed up thing is that I know I love you. I know I love you, but everything in me and the logical part of my brain tells me that love shouldn't feel this way. Love shouldn't hurt like this.
Yeah. Again, I just wish she would have told him away from the altar. Now, of course, they're on Netflix being filmed, so does it really matter if they're on the altar or not? I mean, at the very least, for Cole's sake, he just has to sit there because the expectation is it's her turn to talk. He's not supposed to say anything because that's the procedure, right? So he might be in that mindset of just like, can I walk away from, can I defend myself, or is that not what I'm supposed to do? Anyway, then he pulled his hands because I thought that I was like, well, they're still, yeah. Now, I want to hold out for the possibility that behind the scenes, he is a complete jerk and they edited it in a certain way, or they just didn't capture when he was a jerk face. That whole bipolar accusation thing had a feel to it that seemed quite particular. So I don't know if I'm reading it right, but that indicates that there's something going on with Cole, like he has a dark side or a mean side, I think. I'm not quite sure, but maybe Zay experienced that. Somehow I doubt it, though, because I think she would have said something, but I don't know.
I can't marry you, and I don't. You are a good man, and I know that. I know that about you. And I wish I could have had more of that. I really do.
Okay, well, that's contradictory to what she was saying before. You're a good man. You know, I don't think that's really going to sink in or be believed because of all the things she said prior to that statement. So what do I think? I wonder if for her, she's like, well, he's not horrible. In her perspective, he treated me horribly, but I think he's not that bad, so I'm sure he'll be fine. So, yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what's going to happen now. Wait, clapping? Yikes. So, yeah, is that what they're clapping for? Yeah, tell Cole off. He deserves to be blasted in this moment. Yeah, I mean, certainly he deserves to be blasted for that bipolar thing in my eyes, but I don't think he deserves to be blasted entirely in the way that he's being blasted right now. I don't know. Maybe there'll be a balancing of the scale. He'll be able to come out and say, well, I have a thing to say. I don't know. But clapping? Also, the clapping seemed really anemic. It's like the sort of clapping where it's like, are we let's re-listen to that because it's tragically comic.
You are a good man, and I know that. I know that about you, and I wish I could have had more of that. I really do.
And isn't he supposed to walk off, or is it always the woman who walks off? Because usually when the I don't say I don't, the other person walks away. I don't understand the system. Not that it really matters, but it kind of matters, right? In terms of the vibe of it all. Like, for her to say I don't and walk away, it's just like, screw you, I'm out of here. Whereas with Bartise, right, he says I don't, and then Nancy walks off, because at least Nancy's able to say, like, well, if it's I don't, then I'm walking out. I don't know. Ultimately, it's probably not that big of a deal. Their lives have a lot of events and moments, but I'm just trying to understand the system. I will commend Cole for just taking it and saying nothing. I don't think there's any good that can come from him defending himself or striking back in that moment. So I think that that's commendable. I think a lot of people would have said something or did something. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.